This is going to be a microbiology cooking class. Don't get scared by the name microbiology, sounds very scientific, but it's a universal way of preparing food. It has to be universal because we are creation in the human form. So all the food comes from creation. And the connection with creation is different with different foods. So the most important food is most universal is the grain, the wholesale grain. This has to be our main food. The secondary foods are beans, different kind of beans, lentils, and then we have vegetables, and they have to be in season. So the preparation, we call this cooking, requires us to understand the principle of creation, how to change. And change happens by polarity. So you have like heaven, you have earth, and they're connected by the water element, with the fire element, so you get a cycle. So it is very important that we know how to facilitate this principle of change in a food, because cooking is the art of changing creation into us. But before it happens, we are able, that's typical human, we are able to change the food. So we put the food in this pot, and what happens in this pot is like a womb. Right? Same thing as in the womb also. It's a process taking place, but it's a natural process in the mother's womb. But the human is able to do it in an artificial way, so to speak. But we use the law of the creator, but this goes way beyond a so-called natural law. It's a universal law, the law of creation. So it begins with the polarization. So creation begins with the release of the creative force, so-called spirit. That's very, very sharp. It means it's infinite. You cannot stop it. It is constant, the moment that continues. And by that, we create the polarization, which means one becoming two. Science calls this the so-called the Big Bang. But then we create energy, vibration. So it means that creative force now manifests as frequency, vibration, energy. And from here we get a process. It continues to reach all the way to the earth. But the human is able to capture this energy in this cooking pot. So the kitchen, as you may say, is an extent of the earth. So the kitchen here is a temple, right? And in this temple, they perform this ceremony. This is ceremony. It's not just cooking for taste, but knowing how to change food into this body, but also this body is able to have feelings, emotions, thinking, imagination, consciousness. And this is what we want to facilitate in the cooking process. It's not just only tasty food, gourmet food for the tongue and for the mouth, but influencing the food. And I'll give you an example here. This is what they have done. They put water in a jar like this, and they put a label on it that says love overnight. The next day, they, with a certain technique, crystallize the water, and this is how the water looks like after it has been exposed to the word of love. A beautiful image, like a mandala. Then they put the other time a label that says, you make me sick, I'll kill you, or I don't like you, something that's very negative. Okay, and they started the water, and what the water looks like the next day, it's like this. It's ugly. It's a mess, chaos. So, and that is just only by a label. So we have to be careful. Foods that are exposed to labels, all kind of commercials, you don't know what they put on it, symbols sometimes, and that can influence the food inside. Now, that is just a very simple process, water. But now, this food is 80% water, sometimes more. And so, even when we lift up this food, it is already, or energy we put in there. Whatever happens in the kitchen, the noise of machines and all kind of junk and something that is very unorganized, dirty dishes, you name it, that all influences our food. And the cook who handles the food, stirring the food and so on, all of this goes into the food. So we have to be careful about who's cooking the food, how are they cooking it, what kind of consciousness they put in there, right? So I just mentioned this polarization, one becoming two, and that's what we also do. To begin with cooking, we have this process of one becoming two. That's the knife. The knife had to be very sharp. It is like the spirit. It goes thinner and thinner. It's infinite, and with that we can polarize. It's more than just cutting, so-called cutting, splitting food. No, it's more than that. It's polarization, and there are different ways of polarization. Or polarizing. Like I said, this carrot. When you cut the carrot this way, horizontally, so now I have polarized. What happened is, by the polarization, we create an energy, vibration. And this vibration or this influence that they put on this food, on this carrot, is different when we cut it this way, horizontally. See, it's a different energy. Also, it cooks differently, tastes differently, and they can make combinations. So here we have so-called a matchstick, right? And we can make it smaller, like this. Cooks differently, eats differently. We can cut it this way. This is quite different than this way. And we can make combinations. This is also a matchstick, so-called, that it has a point. So this tiny point here cooks differently on this. So we get a different of taste, but also a different polarity. And all of this leads to the further process. Well, cooking begins with cutting. And the cutting board, we have to treat it in a very sacred manner. We never can put, for example, pots and pans on it. You never do this. Right? Many cutting boards, you see markings on it, and you never put this on water. You can also see many cutting boards are all fungus, very black. And this is sacred, it's an altar. The knife had to be very sharp. You don't wash it together with all kind of implements. Now, this is the beginning. But then, the kitchen, the organization. We have to have space where we can really work and not be cluttered. Most kitchens have all plastic, paperwork, all kind of things that you don't need, right? So here, as a very small kitchen, and we do the best we can, next to the cutting board, we have a towel, so every time you clean it, you always feel comfortable. There are cutting bowls, 2 or 3 different sizes, so when you need to cut something, you can put it on the side, cut, put it in here, put it here. By the time you cook, you can put it in the pot in a certain sequence. You're ready, see, and you can continue cooking. And you can find everything. So many times in kitchens, you cannot find the lids. And while you're cooking, where's the lid? Where's the lid? And it's always confusion, chaos. And then you're finished right away, and you have another towel next to your stove. You can clean it, clean it, put it back. Right? Something is spilled, you wipe it off right away. And so you end up in a very relaxed way, very like a dance. And by the time you finish the cooking, you don't have to be cluttered with the kitchen. Right? And that's how cooking should be. So we begin with making the menu, and we decide what is the main food for the day. It's always the grain. There are many grains, not only rice, millet, corn, oats, many grains, quinoa including. But today we have rice. So that is 50% or more of our meal. All over the day, at least 50%. That's the main food. Then the rice here, this is what we choose today as the main food. We wash it first. And there are 2 ways of cooking the rice. Basically, one is you soak the rice for about between 1 and 2 hours. Now, I have not soaked it. I forgot maybe, or we don't have time. Sometimes you don't have time to do it all and you forget, you are busy. Then add a little bit more water. Okay? So now you add the water. And there's so many different advice of how you should cook your rice. Proportion of water, how much time you should use. So here, that's the traditional way. By the amount of water that is on top of the rice. It's about like this. 2 knuckles. Then you add salt to it. Not so much for the taste, but by adding the salt a little bit, not too much. Now you polarize the salt, you make it more alkaline, but also it creates enzymes. It promotes enzyme cultivation. And we create a polarity, that means we create energy, and also influence the taste, of course, but not in such a way that we taste salt. When you taste salt, already too much. Now the idea of cooking is, with the fire, we help with the release of memory. Not many people talk about memory, they talk about vitamins, proteins, enzymes and so on, but that is not what food is. These are macroscopic observations in the laboratory. I'm talking about the total cycle, right, of the elements and how we can all combine this into one. And this is like a womb. That's how we create in the womb, here in mother's womb, by the total cycle, not by flesh and blood and minerals and calcium and so on. No, we are created in the womb by the union of heaven and earth and the 5 elements and that whole process. That's how we grow in mother's womb. That's how all creation starts to manifest in the human form. Okay, but here we do the same thing in principle, but we do it in a cooking pot. This is a womb. That's how we have to understand this. So now we light a fire. Of course, real fire is not the same as electricity, microwave. It doesn't have the same power of the element of ascension that this fire is for. Water is for descension, fire is for ascension, and we need real fire. Okay, the process is, we wait till it boils and continue boiling for maybe 3-5 minutes. Reduce the flame a little bit and let it continue to boil until the water comes down to about that much. So maybe 1/3 of the original amount of water. Then you put a lid on and reduce the flame to the absolute minimum. If you have a flame diffuser, you can put it on it so you don't prevent it from burning. Little scorching is alright, but not black butter. So the next is beans. Also that takes time. So we can make a choice of different beans. These are azuki beans. That's beans relate generally to the kidneys. So it can either weaken the kidneys, or it can strengthen the kidneys. These azuki beans, they are the supreme food for the strengthening of kidneys. The way you make it is you wash it first, soak it overnight. Again, I didn't soak it overnight. This is a cook class, so I do it in a different way. Instead of cooking normally in a cooking pot with water, I put it in the pressure cooker and see what happens. The pressure cooker makes it much softer in a quicker way. So we wash the beans. Now this is a pressure cooker. Many people are afraid of pressure cooker. Of course you have to know how to use it. And I add a seaweed. There are different kinds of seaweed. This is a kombu seaweed. And the reason why I put in this kombu is to make the beans less gassy. But also beans have a tendency to to make kerosene means going up, and sea vegetables from the ocean, they bring it more down, and that relates, the seaweeds, they relate to the inner ocean with the small intestine. So instead of there being energy going up, it goes down. So that's why I use this seaweed. Okay. So this is a safety valve under here, and this what happens is when it start pressure going up, this start to come up and you hear it sizzling like this. Okay. So that probably takes altogether maybe an hour, but meanwhile, in that time, instead while this going on, I'm not just waiting. I do spend my time now with side dishes. Okay, I have to choose the cutting bowl, and I'll make a carrot dish. What we always want to have next to the stove is salt, water, oil, and something that can help with not only the taste but also with the digestive process, like the enzymes. That's for us is tamari. These three elements or four, we always want to keep it here, so when we cook, we can do it right away at our fingertips. We don't have to look, where can I get it? Why I have to look? It's right there. You can cook without really getting frustrated to find things in drawers, in cabinets. Where is it? Where is it? It's all ready to be used. Okay? Should be not any hesitation, no frustration. You can cook without any blocks. So we wait until the pot is hot. It's a small flame here. It takes a little while. Also here, as you can see, I can use the utensils right away. When I need something, I can find it right away. Not too much clutter. Sometimes they have so many kind of different implements and you don't know which one to choose. The one that you always use is all in your fingertips. You can use it right away. For stirring, or scooping. It's all there, you see. You don't have to look for it. No clutter, no confusion. Need the oil, it's right there. See what it is, testing. Clean it out, you see, right away I put it back, no fuss, right? You can use it right away, anytime. So meanwhile the rice is boiling here, and let it boil for another maybe 5 minutes before reduce the flame to about 50%. Now what you see here is I put the onions first. And the reason why I put the onions first, onions are an energy that's going up, right? For carrot is an energy that's going down. So you make a good polarity. And this goes from heaven to earth, this from earth to heaven. It's a unifying energy. That's what we want. So now I put the carrots on top. It's very important that we also understand it, realize it, and visualize it. How earth and heaven and earth start to unify. Okay? So similarly as what we have attained here is by the influence, by visualization, we can do the same thing and more, way more, by doing this, by actually doing it, not just by a label or by a symbol, but by the doing. We can do this. We can multiply this many more times. So when you stir, not just stirring, you do this with the consciousness. What is happening here? To unify. And you do it with a feeling. And don't stir without heartless in any direction, but you do it with the rhythm. From left to right, right to left. In a very rhythmic, orderly way. So So there are three things happening at the same time. Meanwhile, the pressure is off, you can hear it. I can let it go up a little bit more before I reduce it, the flame. Meanwhile, I see what I can do to keep it orderly. Clean this pot, put it back, everything, right? That's how you get control of your life. Not just your body, but also your mind, your emotions. Anyone who eats your food also feels like, hey, this really makes the food make you in balance. You have control. So the pressure cooker now, the pressure is up, and you reduce the flame to minimum. So the pressure is up, but as long as the flame is right, the pressure is also maintained. So while the rice is cooking, while the beans are cooking, you can make 2, 3 side dishes. No problem. All depends on how many flames you have, of course. Some burners have, some stoves have 6 burners. This only has 4. Now why did I put oil prior to the cooking? When they use no oil, only water, and we can do it too, they only reach a temperature of 100 degrees, no matter how much fire you use. That's a maximum that you can use with water. And so with that temperature, we only can reach a certain depth into the food to release the memory. Now remember, memory is very important. The memory of the entire evolutionary past is now being released, and it's later carried by the blood, so we can remember. That's why the central nervous system, so via the digestive system, we internalize the memory, but by the central nervous system, so the blood carries the memory and we can remember. Okay? That's very important. Memory is the essence. So now, with oil, they can attract more heat. So with more heat, they go deeper into the food. They can release more memory. So it's a big difference when you eat cooked food or raw food. When you eat raw food, you cannot release as much memory. That's why animals, in nature, all other animals, we are the only animals that can use fire. All other animals, they don't have that ability to release memory. That's why they are trapped in the same cycle. By the seasons, by the location, they don't know how to get into a bigger context of consciousness or development. Humans can do it. They can go even to the moon, to other planets. Why? Because we are able to remember more. We are able to release more memory from the food. All other animals cannot do it. And as you can see, as animals become more able to release the memory because they have a more evolved digestive system, by the development of the teeth, the stomach, intestines, they are able to be more free and move around and communicate in bigger environments. And humans can do it in the total environment. They can be universal. They can travel to the entire universe. They can create spaceships and so on. It's because of memory. And when we lack that memory, they are trapped. Many people are trapped. Even when they are human in a form, but mentally, socially, spiritually, they are trapped.